Hello, this is Reindeer's Bees, and today I'm going to start a series about beginning beekeeping. It's going to be 3 parts. So part 1 is going to be about explaining the basic equipment and a few tips to help you start your first year. Part 2 is going to be how to install a package, how to install a nuke. Part 3 is going to be about cost of the 3 different setups that I estimated, which is single deep, double deep, and 3 mediums. So, hope you enjoy. All right, so I'm going to take you through the basic parts of a beehive. So, first you start with the outer cover. So this is just, a piece of wood with some metal on top. Other people use wooden migratory covers, and it's just a different style. Saves you some money because you don't have to have an inner cover and an outer cover. You want to have an inner cover with this or something in between the box and this, because the bees will glue down these edges to the frames and you won't be able to get it off. So make sure you have something in between your outer cover and the top of your box. So here is the feeder. If you're a beginning beekeeper, you're going to need to feed your bees to get them to draw out comb. That's just how it is. You need a lot of energy to make new comb. So this is my type of feeder. There's bucket feeders. There's a million different type of feeders. But how this one works is the bees come up through this hole in the middle, and you have this piece of plastic on top, and the sugar water comes through the holes in the plastic. So the bees are able to come up over the top and go down to drink the sugar water, because the sugar water goes, like, the more sugar water you put in the feeder, the higher the level in the disc. So they're able to drink it from there. This is what's called the inner cover. So it has a little hole in the top for the bees to use as an entrance. I'm starting to just turn this over because I think that I'm starting to believe that more ventilation is not necessarily a good thing, and that insulation is more important than ventilation. So the feeder sits on top through this hole so the bees can come up, and it makes sure that your bees can't glue your outer cover to the top of your frames, because if they do, you won't be able to get it off, and that's very bad. Here's what's called a honey super. So most people in the US, or not most people in the US, most hobbyists use medium frames as their honey supers. So the medium frames aren't quite as big as the deep frames in this box, and so they're not as heavy. If the bees put all honey in this box, it gets pretty heavy, but not as heavy as a deep. So honey super is really just any box that you want the bees to put honey into. And the bees don't always do what you want, but that's what we call a honey super. You can have a deep as a honey super, but it's just like where it is in the stack and what you want the bees to do with it. So honey super, medium honey super. Here's a queen excluder. A lot of people don't use them, but I think they're useful in certain situations. And all it does is the bees are able to come through these holes, the worker bees, but not the queen, because the queen's a lot fatter than the worker bees. So that makes it so your queen can't move up into your honey super up here. She's trapped to this box to lay brood. So if you want to keep the honey out of your super, then you want to put a queen excluder on. The only downside is if the bees don't have any comb in their honey super, it's not drawn out, they haven't made cells off of it, they're not likely to go through the queen excluder and draw comb above. I linked a video up here where I talk about queen excluders. The most versatile tool in beekeeping. So that's the queen excluder. So this is the deep box. So this is primarily what beekeepers use for brood. Some beekeepers have all mediums and will use mediums for brood, but the vast majority of beekeepers use these to have brood in them. So the queen goes all around and she lays eggs. The frames are bigger than the medium box. I think 3 inches longer. So the comb goes out a lot farther than like this. So this is undrawn comb and this is drawn comb. So they've moved it off the foundation. So the queen lays all over this box. And lastly, the bottom board. So this is just what the hive sits on, and they land right here. So there are some other basic beekeeping tools that pretty much everyone needs. So I'm gonna start with this smoker. So smokers are, what they do is when you pump smoke into a hive and you pump the bellows, it calms the bees down because the bees aren't able to communicate well because you're blocking their pheromones with the smoke. So that's why every once in a while when you're in the hive, maybe every 5 or 10 minutes, you give them a little bit of smoke to block their communication with each other. So that's the smoker. What I found to be very important when lighting a smoker is to get it really, really hot, have flames bursting out of the top, and then you stuff it down really hard with a lot of fuel. And what that does is it's a really hot fire, and then you get it to smolder. You get really good coals in the bottom. So that's why it will stay going for a really long time. All right, bee suit. So bee suits, I think that all beginners should start wearing a suit, and mine is a full body suit, but most people only get one that goes down to their hips. It's just really important that you feel comfortable in the bee yard when you're starting, and that you don't avoid going out there because you're getting stung. So the suit, it won't stop you from being stung like entirely. You'll still get a couple stings, but by and large, you won't get stung pretty much at all. Like my first year, I think I only got stung like 1 time. So bee suit, that really helps, so you don't get stung. This one's a vented one, it's really nice. And so you can like feel the breeze coming through the suit. It's from Bees & Co. So gloves. Most beginner beekeepers start wearing gloves as well. You can take them off as you get more experienced and are more willing to take a couple stings, because when you wear gloves, you get some more stings. But these are some dishwashing gloves that I got off Amazon. I think they're like $20 or $25. They work great for last summer. More commonly are like goat skin gloves or leather gloves. A lot of people use those, as well as nitrile gloves. Those are really common in beekeeping. So your most important tool, your hive tool. So I got 3 different ones here. You use the hive tool to pry frames and boxes apart to inspect the hive. Like you can't inspect a hive without the hive tool. It's not really possible. So you got 3 different types here. This is the one that I started with, as you can tell with how dirty it is. It doesn't have a hook. It works okay, but I didn't love it. So I tried the J hook. That's what this is called. And what I found with the J hook is when I was prying against frames, it's sharp enough to like cut the frames, the wood off some of the frame rests. So I didn't really like it as much, but I really like the hook. That's a good feature. So I found the best of both worlds. I don't know what it's called, but it's on Amazon if you look it up. It's got the traditional end, it's not sharp. It's good for prying. And then it's got this hook on the other end, which is also really good for pulling out the first frame. So this is the one I'd suggest. I think, I don't know, between $5 and $20. I can't really remember, but you need a hive tool. This is the one you should get, I think. Here's my 3 tips for success as a beginner beekeeper. 1, probably the most important of all of them, find a mentor. You need to find a mentor in your local area because they know your season, they know what you need to do, and if they live nearby, they can come over and help you a couple times. There are going to be a couple times likely in your first year where you struggle, where you don't know what to do, and you're not able to find the queen, or you don't think there are eggs. You don't know, but they're able to come over and give you some clarity on how to do stuff. It's really important to have a mentor. Number 2, go into your bees every week. So if you're a first-year beekeeper, I really suggest going into your bees every 7 to 14 days, but ideally just go in once a week. It doesn't have to be, 60 minutes. Just go in there once a week, maybe between like 10 and 40 minutes, somewhere in there, depending on how much time you have, what the weather is, how much the bees have grown. Go in there and learn what it's like to be in a beehive. Learn how to manage them, how to open the hive, how to pry the frames out. Just learn what it's like to be a beekeeper. And just keep observing the hives, because that's how you learn what different things mean when you see them in the hives, is by going in the hive and actually looking at it. My third tip is keep learning. Most people take a beginning beekeeping course their first year, and that's great. I think that's a great thing to do. But you have to keep learning. Beginning beekeeping class isn't going to encapsulate everything you need to know as a beekeeper. So go into your hives, and there's also other things you need to learn that don't happen in the beehive. So keep learning on YouTube, through podcasts, or through books. There's plenty of all three of those. I really like YouTube, but I've read some books and I listen to podcasts too. So keep learning. It's really important to become a great beekeeper and do the best you can to keep learning. Comment down below, like and subscribe. Check me out on Instagram and Facebook at Reindeer's Bees. Hit that bell to be notified for when I post, and I'll see you in the next one.